DDR,
Yes.
like a slowly poisoned?
Yeah, he started. You know why? That's a very good question. And actually, that you go even like further to the 90s. You know what's the problem between, or the problem that Russia or the post-Soviet the sphere, the countries they have, comparing to what the Western Europe or European, more Western than Ukraine has. The difference is that in the West, you know the good and bad. And you know why do you know the good and bad? Because of the tribunals. Because the criminals that started the World War II and that killed people in a very rude manner that Putin is now practicing not only in Ukraine, these criminals got judged. There has been judgment. And judgment not only through the court, but also judgment in terms of the whole society. Until today, Germans, they are born new kids who feel guilty for what their parents did and who actually are blamed till today. How many years after? They're blamed for what their parents did. In Russia, in the whole Soviet Union space, there has been no judgment. Never judgment ever came till today. And the war in Ukraine is the first judgment. Is the first. We get it with the blood because we did not pay with the prisons. We did not pay with this, that Stalin sent, how many hunger he organized, how many people he sent to Siberia, how many Crimean Tatars, Chechens, how many deportations of Ukrainians, children, killing of the intelligence, killing of those people, intelligence, when I say intelligence, elites, the artists, the cultural elites. Why everyone knows about Russian culture and no one knows about Ukrainian? Because Ukrainian culture has been killed in the 30s. In the 30s, 40s, 60s, it's a systematic, a very systematic thing. And we cannot just get over this propaganda because we don't have enough people to be vocal enough in order to spread the word. So this difference between white and black in Europe and white and black in Russia has to be always paid attention to, because Russians will still pay the price. It is coming, and the fact that they are not resisting today actually gives them even more burden for the future to come.
That's what I wanted to compare with the DDR, like you said.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. Once again, congratulations with your first position on our list. But what will be your, let's say, departments which are interested in you? I mean, what shall you take when you are a member of the parliament? Shall you take justice? Shall you do some economic things? And the second question is, are you happy with the current situation of our institutions on the European level? When I see Shanghai Association, when I see the European Commission and NATO, they are still far away from each other, compared with the Shanghai Association, where armies and economic issues are really strict, harmonized with each other and come to better results, faster results. Are you sure work on that, or do you have other interests in those 4 years? Thank you.
Thank you. Although it is not a topic of discussion, but I will very short answer this. First of all, I am going with the 3 main points, but it doesn't mean that they will stay the only ones. I want to, as I say, I want to defend the interests of Flanders, as I have this passion and experience in defending the people of Ukraine. I am defending the interests and the will of the people. So for me, it's very important to listen. I live in Flanders. I have kids in Flanders. They go to the school in Flanders. This is where I live, and it's my homeland. So for me, it's important, the quality of life where I live. And if I know that Europe can open up in a better way to you, I know that it can open. I know the potential of Europe, that it can give you the more opportunities, more possibilities as a human being, as a businessman, as an employee, as a young person. I want to bring that. I want to make sure that you take all the best out of Europe to make your place better. But for that, I will need your voice. I need candidates for you to actually help me to form the program. I have my own, and my own I can name it. It's strengthening the defense, which many people don't like, but that's the thing that is important. Seeing that the army generals tell us that in 2-3 years there might be an invasion or might be an attack, further attack on Europe. So common defense of European Union is a very important topic that I would like to work on. The further is migration based on European values. Why again European values? It's important that we teach those who arrive to Europe to teach human rights, teach what actually Europe is and what they can take out of Europe, what Europe can give them to open up and to have this society, to integrate in society in a better way. So it's this way they will feel this dignity, and they will not want anyone to attack that dignity. That is the second point, so migration based on the European values, and the third one is to make the voice of people heard. I come from civil society, so I know how it is, the grassroots activities, like activism, and the organization. Like I created organization, and I managed to bring the voice of Ukrainian people through this organization to the institutions and to the Belgians, to the Belgian politicians. And I know how it works, that here in democracy, they still do hear the voice, but you have to have so much, you have to do so much effort for that. It is not them coming and saying, hey, tell us your opinion. It is us knocking all the doors and windows. It is us going to the streets and telling, listen to us. I don't think well, of course it's a democracy, it's a good thing, but I think there should be a better and more open dialogue between those in power and those who take decisions and those in favor of whom these decisions are taken. They believe in favor of whom, but if the voice is not heard, this decision may be wrong. So these three things are the most important, or let's say the ones that I come up with, but I'm very open to listen to what the common opinion of our party will be on important issues in the European Parliament. And again, I believe that first of all, the expertise that I have and the experience that I have and the passion that I have, I will be able to defend with the same strength your interests as I do defend the interests of Ukrainian people. And I highlight people, not the government, people.
It's maybe not a question, but rather a comment to what Marta said. My name is Anna Besmet, and I'm a number 5 on the European list, and I'm Polish. So I think we have a lot in common here, the three of us. And what you just said about defense of Ukraine, and especially like giving weapons and supplying all sorts of defense mechanism to Ukraine means a lot. Because historically, Poland used to be a buffer country, a buffer land between Russia and Germany. Like, we always fell victim to what was happening with wars, and we always were occupied. Now this same thing, well, not the same thing, Germany is now on our side. A similar thing is happening to Ukraine right now. And we can, no offense, but you can call Ukraine a buffer state now. Maybe it's not a nice word to use, but if we let Putin into Ukraine to take over Ukraine, we let him this one step closer to Europe, to European Union, to the border. The Polish border is the border of European Union. We are trying to defend it. We're trying very hard. We are trying to support as much as we can. But we can't do it without the support of the whole European Union. And we have to realize that defending Ukraine is defending Europe. This is the main point. Because without Ukraine, like, Putin will come closer. Putin is quite a crazy man. Let's not be afraid to say that. He's quite delusional in some of his statements, some of his made-up facts, and he is a true danger. And we have to realize that he is a very dangerous man, and we have to stop him. And the way to stop him is to push him out of Ukraine.
Thank you, Anna. Two things that I wanted to add. One thing indeed, if Putin attacks further Europe, all your businesses will not matter anymore. Everything what you discuss, all this on the agendas, politics, and it will just not matter. Everything will be a mess. Even if he doesn't attack Belgium, but he attacks Poland, he attacks Baltic states, you will have a mess here. And there will be people who will want to use this opportunity for them and maybe cut the country in two or take over the government or whatever. So it could be, anything is possible, anything. But we should not take our freedom and our peace for granted. We already know it's already happening very close to the European Union's border, to another European state. And we know that it happened there, it can happen again, and usually when totalitarian leaders promise something, they usually do fulfill the promises, especially if it's something bad. So thank you, Anna, for this. One more thing that I wanted to add to the program, and I think it's very important in terms of the topic of corruption. Corruption topic is very very big, and especially when you mention Ukraine, always, oh, Ukraine, no, not Europe because of corruption. That's what I said, that Ukrainian people wanted to fight corruption. That's why they got attacked, and they fight with corruption today through all the digitalization, all the means, and whatever, like in Russia works through corruption, in Ukraine in many cases it works already because of the system is changing. It's very painful, but it's changing. And the new generations, they deserve the hope of change of the system. That's why they need your help. Ukrainian people need your help. Now, again, about the corruption, having all that experience, having all that knowledge, and knowing that corruption is happening here in Brussels, in the European Parliament as well. One of the points of my program would be creation of the anti-corruption committee within the European Parliament for the European Union, for the European Parliament as well. So having a specialized anti-corruption committee to make sure that to take one of the best practices of Ukraine fighting corruption, because we have so many in Ukraine, we have so many positions fighting corruption. Of course, it's not perfect. Sorry? The railway system. There are many systems that have yes, there are many systems that have an issue, but Ukraine is fighting that. The Ukraine is fighting. So we here, you know why you're not fighting corruption? Because you're not aware of it. If you are not aware of it, it doesn't mean it's not happening. You are not aware. We are not aware of corruption that is happening here till it is uncovered. Okay, but it doesn't mean it's not happening. It is happening. You just have no. You have no anti-corruption system. I mean, no anti-corruption fight because you believe there is no corruption here. So that's one of the things that maybe changed and maybe picked up. Yes. So I let moderator now give you the microphone because I don't want to cherry.
Just let's let us say something. I will.
You have to hold it higher.
Yeah.
You have to hold it higher.
At the time, okay. About Polish situation, basically. I understand very well, and we discussed shortly already, the peaceful approach which everyone would like to introduce. But being Russian, I can tell you that we are not promising you any peace. That's the problem. Because what I see now in my country is few things. First of all, during these 2 years, not before mostly, but during these 2 years when the new wave of the war, I don't say the war has started because it's incorrect, the war has started before, but what we call a massive invasion happened. Since then, we gave Putin's government and Putin's system time to adapt to European sanctions and to regenerate his economy and economy of Russia for war specifics. And a lot of factories in Russia, for example, manufacturers and so on, which were producing, I don't know, bread, that's a real case in Tula. They were producing bread, now they are producing rockets. That's one example. And he was doing that during 2 years, and he's continuing to doing that. And if he started to do this economical rail, do you think he will stop suddenly? Or he will develop in that direction? That's a question you need to answer to yourself, because my answer is quite clear. That's a new economy system which was introduced in Soviet Union, and now it's introduced in Russia. We are producing weapons with help of other countries, of course, but, well, that's just the reality we need to face, and that's why I understand why Poland is so concerned. Putin was saying, mentioning Poland recently in his very famous interview. He was saying that Poland was, well, I don't remember exactly, something like a girl in a short robe, you know, like, in between of Germany and USSR. So Germany, of course, needed to react. There is a Poland. Well, how not to react? And when he's mentioning a country, I'm scared each time, because he was talking about Ukraine. We have a war in Ukraine. He's talking about Poland. I'm scared for Poland. So that's not funny. And yes, that's what I would like to introduce. That, of course, we all wish for a better world with no war, but if you see the economy of the country growing, the whole war manufacturing, what do you expect? That's a question.
So, good evening. First, I want to say I admire both of you. Like, I think for us, democracy is very easy. We're used to it. This is just, it's not hard to participate in democracy. I'm very well aware of both of you. It's a struggle, and you have to be brave to stand up against people like Putin. But Marta, I have a maybe nasty question for you. You're head of our list. I'm very glad you are. Mainly because there are quite a lot of people on our list who don't agree with you, who did their own research and decided that they believe Putin or Putin lies over you. How do you deal with that? How do you work with people? You're a member of the same party, even if it's a very big house. How do you handle people who are obviously aping and we're pretty high on the list as well. I know Stephen, I'm sorry, I forgot his the guy who's first on the Flemish list for the Flemish Parliament in Vlaams Brabant. He mentions NATO as one of the reasons why the war broke out in Ukraine. Well, as you said, like everybody knows, it was because they wanted to be one part of Europe. How do you? What's your position within the party towards people like that?
Thank you. A very good question. First of all, I am used to have these controversies because you ask how do I handle them? How did Europe handle me? The same way we talk. We discuss. This is first thing. Another thing that for me is like I'm an international lawyer. I have for me there is the only one criteria which defines good or bad in international relations, and it's international law. So when we talk about provocation, like for me, if you ask, there is no such thing as provocation in international law. There is United Nations Charter, everyone agreed to it, and there are only two reasons to start a war, or to have a war, to conduct a war. And the two reasons is defense or self-defense. That's it. There are no other reasons to start a war. A provocation is not one of them. So that's the as international lawyer. That's for me clear. Now, how do I handle the discussions with people who are on the same in the same party, on the same level of the list? Let's say is that, first of all, we haven't met personally. I mean, I know Stephen since 2021, I believe we met then, when during the pandemic, but we haven't discussed the issue of Ukraine much. I would like to have an open discussion. That's why this has been a reason to have this discussion, to bring all the people who have contradictory opinion together to talk and to have this at least first touch. Okay, I believe that we should talk and discuss, and everyone has it. Whenever we are on our competences, we have our, let's say. My competence would be in the European Parliament, European competence, okay? For Stephen, it would be his competence within the Flemish Parliament and so on. So everyone handles, if we talk about politics, about like professionally, okay? Everyone has his own part and he deals with his own part. We have 12 points on which we all agree, and one of them is free and democratic Europe. How you explain whole free and democratic Europe is a bit different issue. Like you can explain it that also that freedom needs to be defended, and you can have only free Europe if the countries that surround Europe are also free. You can also explain that. So you have many different arguments on how to approach the issue. But then whether you handle this question within the parliament, Flemish parliament, that is up to the person that is elected. Then, if we get such thing, if he gets the question, if I get the question, the same thing, I think for us it's better to meet and discuss and see how we approach and how we come up as a team outside, how we, don't hurt each other's reputation, let's say, by saying absolutely different things. But for me, I have very clear position. By having me as a lead candidate is already a statement per se. So I try not to bring up topic of Ukraine myself as much as other people do. I actually try not to, but it always comes up. Okay, let's talk about it. And I believe there is, a fundamental misunderstanding about how to, not to finish it all, but the result, what to do further, the next steps. Provocation, how it started, that's all history. Let's look at the facts. Look at the facts and let's understand how we are going to deal with the facts. You see, you hear how Putin reacts to his own people. Okay, let's have it like today. Let's think. Putin already kills his opponents. He doesn't value life. He values no values. There is only Russian world or Russian peace, whatever you name it. And that is the way he will handle the negotiations or peace agreements, if he has peace agreements with Ukraine. Tell me, how will you guarantee that the agreement he signs today, he will fulfill tomorrow? Guarantee me. No guarantee, He will not. Even if he fulfills it tomorrow, if he implements those peace agreements tomorrow, he will take the time, a few years maybe, to strengthen his economy and come again stronger against you. That's the thing how he... And then the people of Ukraine, why we don't all consider here, we talk about Ukrainians as about object and not subject. Why no one considers the will of Ukrainian people who willingly went to frontline, willingly, without anything, without ammunition, without bulletproof vests, nothing, they didn't have nothing, and I know that I am a Ukrainian born, we have here Ukrainians, they willingly went to die for Ukraine's right to sovereignty and to its own will. So we have to consider these perspectives when discussing different opinions.
But how shall you handle the double nationality? There are a lot of key positions in Ukraine still now have a double nationality, the Russian one and the Ukrainian one. Suppose that judge in the Supreme Court issue to this double nationality. How shall you handle that one when a Marshall Plan will be established after the war and will bring Ukraine closer to the European Union? Also very important, the SMEs in Kharkiv. When you talk and you want to establish an SME, small middle-sized entrepreneur, it's a Russian group who is dominating the whole whole area regarding SME. A little bit, you can compare it with Riga, the Baltic states. SMEs are doing business with Russia, not with the European Union. So that's the Baltic state, Ukraine. How shall you deal with the people there, the local people, to change their mentality, to create, in fact, to follow a free democratic country?
Okay, I got it. Thank you. Honestly, I believe that there are not many people left who have that Russian mentality. Putin killed that. He himself, he killed the mentality of the Russian world in Ukrainian people and started attacking Ukrainians. And because Ukrainians see, they experience that, they hear it from young kids, they hear it from the youth, that comes the refugees that come from Mariupol, that come from the cities that were occupied. They listen the stories. It's not media propaganda. It's a story from people to people. And with young people, you know, they don't lie. They don't have the agenda in their mind. And these people have already a very pro-European and pro-Ukrainian mentality. Why? They want to live in freedom, and they have the mentality of freedom. And I don't think there are too many left, those who would support and do business with Russia. There are some who are ready to sell anything, even their own mother, for, I don't know, whatever, money, power, interest, whatever. But this is not the majority. Maybe it was when the Crimea was occupied. There were in some cities like pro-Russian moods, but Putin killed it himself. I mean, Russians killed it by having this very aggressive way of handling, they say, denazification of Ukraine. Is that...
last question.
I don't have a question.
Okay, comment.
Wil jullie dat ik in het Nederlands zeg of in het Engels?
Wow, dat is goed.
Engels? Okay, we'll do it in English. I had the great pleasure to have Stephen, because I want to answer to your question. I had a great pleasure to have Stephen in my party for some time. And he went out of the party, which is a fact that is well known between everybody here, I think. And shortly before he went, we made a text together about Ukraine. And this text was treated in the party, in the party direction, you can say, the partijbestuur. And he agreed upon that text. And that text is very clear. Everybody can see it, it's still online. It's the visietekst over Oekraïne van de Partij Vrijheid. And there you can see that we said at that time that, of course, when the Iron Wall fell, we had an incredible opportunity to make a definitive peace in Europe, to stop every conflict with Russia. And we didn't take that opportunity at that time.
We totally did.
And
We totally did. Why do you think there was like gas from going from? Why were we so depending on Russian gas? Because
But
we tried.
I'm
The only
talking-
thing that didn't happen was there was no democratic election in Russia. The only thing that stopped Russia becoming European was Putin. It's like there was nothing else that stopped it. We totally did this.
I'm
This is
talking
why
about. I'm sorry, but I'm talking about
I'm
20
old
years
enough-
ago.
Yeah, I'm old enough to remember.
It's not about now, about
No,
the gas now. It's about
no,
20 years ago.
we did.
At that time, we had the opportunity to make a definitive
And we did
peace.
it.
No, we did not. No, we did not. He asked to be a member of NATO at that time in 2020. We refused him.
Yes, we humiliated.
He wanted to become a member of the European Union, first in a slow way.
Never tried.
We refused
Never
him.
tried.
Yes,
Never tried.
yes, it happened.
Okay, maybe you can also.
Robertson
Do you
refused
think
him
Putin ever
because
wanted to
he
incorporate
didn't.
the European Union?
But facts are facts. Robertson refused him because he didn't want to follow the formal procedure to be into NATO. Why? Because when he comes into NATO, there is no enemy anymore in NATO. So NATO has to be totally rethought. And that's what we wrote in our text. And of course, indeed, when we didn't look for peace in a definitive way in that time, we are also to blame that this conflict is there. And that's what we said in the text. And that's what, in fact, also I think Stephen says still today. He says, yes, we have a part in this as NATO because we didn't fight for peace at that time. But this doesn't mean that Putin has the right to invade Ukraine. It's something else. So you need to make that division between these two things. Of course, we could do better as NATO. Of course, we didn't have the leaders to do it at that time. We didn't have the leaders for all these years. Van Rompuy didn't do anything except smiling to Putin. And we had the opportunity to do things, we didn't do it. So we are in that way also responsible. But this doesn't give the right to Putin to invade Ukraine. And that's very clearly in this text, and Stephen approved it. So I don't see in this matter a big problem with Stephen. I'm sorry, but if he approves that text, I think he's still behind that text. If he changes his mind, okay, he has to say it.
That text
But
is very problematic.
this is the text that we did at that time, and that was his point of view.
It's such a problematic text. Like the whole idea, we've been appeasing Putin from the start till 2022. Like, of non-stop, really non-stop.
Let's continue. Iedereen heeft wat te doen.
Thank you. Yes, I heard that point of view many times since I came to Europe and even before. And it all very sounds reasonable, and I understand where it comes from, indeed. And indeed, even in my memory, I was still a child. At the time you are talking, it's something like 2004, I do believe. So 20 years ago, indeed. I remember that even in the Russian first channel, what we call, we had all this deal around Putin trying to join NATO, trying to discuss joining European Union, and so on and so on. And at that time, it was also represented to us, like, in a way we were humiliated by European Union, being not accepted even to discuss further. I remember that, now knowing specifically that any news which are coming from the first channel is propaganda, automatically. I understand that it was very well represented, not only in Russia, but also in Europe. Because the only one point what I was trying to say here, that, okay, maybe he was trying to enter Europe, maybe willingly and truly, but to bring peace inside European Union or to destabilize it. Did he basically ever could respect your values or not? Because what I'm trying to say is that in 1999 he started his way to power from fake and terrorist attacks. So that kind of leader you want inside NATO? Because this is already proven, I can send you a link. He was basically blowing up a building to create a problem inside Russia and to get to power. This is a very classical KGB approach, or FSB approach, whatever you prefer of these two organizations, which is the one. But do you truly believe that this kind of leader could bring values to Europe? Maybe, because I don't. I don't believe so.
Maria. This is an opinion, of course.
I have a moderator, so here I am.
Okay, I'm gonna share a Polish perspective on this, because I definitely don't support Polish Putin supporters or defenders at all, and especially Stephen Arazola's article, and as we heard, co-written. I don't want to use strong words, so I'm just gonna stop. I'm gonna give you perspective on Polish history. I was born exactly when the Berlin Wall fell, so I didn't live through all this, but I carry the legacy of my grandparents, great-grandparents, all the histories that were passed down from generation to generation. And when the Russian occupation, and I'm gonna use stereotypes, so please don't feel offended. When the Russian occupation started, Okay, let's start from a different point. World War II, we were attacked by Germany, by Adolf Hitler, the lovely person, and he brought German occupation to Poland and divided, basically with the Russians, divided Poland in half. The western part of Poland has a beautiful infrastructure of railroads, roads, hospitals, everything you can wish for in a developed country. You go to eastern part of Poland and you get nothing. There is one highway that goes directly from Warsaw to Moscow. Nothing else. There's maybe 3, 4, 5 like general hospitals, some railroads, not many. Still to this day, just open any map, you can see it. So my family experienced during the war, and this is same things are happening now in Ukraine. Bear that in mind. There were Russian soldiers going from village to village, not knowing any modern technology, modern in that in that time. They entered my family's house with a beautiful kitchen, well, my family maybe wasn't very wealthy, but they had a modern kitchen by the standards then, and these soldiers didn't know it. They saw a parquet floor, they tore it up, they made a fire, and they cooked their meal. They didn't know what a toilet was, so they went outside. They had every luxury available. Now we hear similar stories in 2024. For the last 2 years, similar stories are being told from Ukraine. Still now, in 21st century. Like, imagine the perspective of people from Russia. They go to Ukraine and they haven't seen such luxuries, such a developed country in their life. Like, I'm not talking to our fellow Russians and Ukrainians now, but please name 5 cities in Russia. Like, imagine the perspective, how huge Russia is. Name 5 cities.
Ufa, Nizhny Kamsk,
Sorry?
Vladivostok. I mean, I can name 10, but that's because.
Yeah, but maybe you're passionate. By the standard
also,
person.
I mean, I think we can discuss a lot about differences in GDP and luxury, etc. You know, it's not Moscovites that are fighting in Ukraine. It's
exactly,
people,
that's what I'm saying.
People from past.
That's what I'm trying to make you realize.
So, and they live in complete.
They are being literally
in poverty, and
exactly.
That's why they are paid to go and fight and die in Ukraine.
Exactly, it's disgusting. What Putin is doing is absolutely disgusting to what he is doing to his own people.
And it's those mothers who are going to try and complain in Moscow, etc. But
absolutely,
I think we should try and. I mean, there's different opinions on how history and how, let's say, how NATO and Europe and how Medvedev and Yeltsin and.
Okay, tell me why NATO sparked any conflict in this, because this is something I don't get at all. Like, NATO is okay. Like, you don't want to let a crazy person live in your house, right?
Well, let's
imagine that NATO is a house, or European Union is a house, and you don't want a crazy person living in your house because you won't be able to kick him out.
Exactly, but let me emphasize that both Maria and Marta, and he went outside, but Michael, they said the same thing. Marta was very clear in international law. A provocation is no excuse to invade a country, and that's exactly what Michael repeated. So it's not because you are looking to, in a conflict there is always 2 sides. Always. But that doesn't mean that one has the right to do what it's doing. So I'm interested actually not in finding the faults and to try and analyze the psychology of Mr. Vladimir Putin.
I'm interested in how NATO and Europe can hopefully come to an end of the killing and destruction in Ukraine by Putin indeed.
That is.
Let's not look at the past.
I can answer the question. Putin started this war, he's crazy, you're not interested in his craziness, but how you're interested how NATO and EU can finish the war.
Well,
he started, but you want the other side to finish it. He started, he has to take, he has to withdraw the troops.
Well, that's exactly
It's
what
finished.
I answered. That's exactly what I answered to Stephen. Is that if Ukraine, if Putin starts to fight, stops to fight, the war is over. If Ukraine stops the fight,
there is no more Ukraine.
there is no more Ukraine. And you can say this is a black and white opinion. It's not.
Why?
No, it's because it's correct. If we stop sending shells, munition, tanks, F-16s, whatever, to Ukraine.
Will be occupied and then will be
yes, exactly. The whole of Ukraine will be occupied.
Yes.
He's telling to the press that he's not interested in occupying the Baltic states or to invade Europe. We can doubt about that or speculate, but I don't like speculation. We don't need to speculate. Of course, from a philosophical standpoint, it can be interesting, but it's quite sure that if we stop, we as NATO and Europe and the US, stop providing weapon systems and intelligence to the Ukrainian army, that Putin will just occupy the whole of Ukraine. That's for sure. And we know what kind of a dictator and autocratic guy he is. Maybe he will do the same trick like Stalin did in the 50s and move people out of Ukraine and put Russia.
He's already killing people. You saw Bucha. Okay. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, but once he occupies Ukraine, he doesn't need to kill anybody anymore.
Yes, because people will resist.
There will be still a resistance.
He will fight, and he will find those who resist, and he will kill them. Have you seen how many people with the blue and yellow or European things were killed? So this will happen.
We know how Mr. Putin is handling opposition. We can see that in Russia every day. So that's not a bright future for Ukraine. So that's why we continue the fight. At the same time, I think it's important to try and imagine a future. So you can have a dream. You can have a dream and say, well, Mr. Putin will change his mind and become peaceful. I mean, I don't think that's a realistic one. You can say, well, let's give him what he wants or what he has, like the Donbass and Crimea. Nobody will say that they like it, but maybe that's the way to organize it. Or we can say, well, we continue till the end. But continuing till the end is not, I mean, that's also giving Putin what he wants, because Putin doesn't want a flourishing democratic Ukraine. He wants to prove that it's some Nazi infiltrated country, puppet of the West, and that he is victorious in the destruction of Ukraine, which is an evil idea. And honestly, I don't see a way out of this.
But can I make a comment this time? Because if we just take out the war that's happening now,